Hey guys, Tyler here from GarageWarrior.com, where I show you how to get stronger, live longer, look good naked, and live the life of your dreams. And today we're going to talk about the second portion of nutrition. And we're going to talk about what I personally do with my boot camp clients, with my private clients, to help them lose fat, optimize their fat loss hormones, and generally feel a lot better, okay? So it kind of starts with one simple principle, and that is to optimize your hormones via your macronutrient ratios. Now there is a lot of debate about this, okay? There's a lot of people talking about low carb, high protein, high fat, low fat. There's a million different ways to spin this. So that's why I hope to share with you guys the fundamental principles that science has shown us are correct, okay? And so I'm going to talk about each one of these macronutrients, what they do in the body, and how we can optimize your hormones via looking at these macronutrient ratios, okay? So we're going to start with carbohydrates. So we'll do the dreaded carbs, right? Carbs are high-intensity fuel and fuel for the brain. So you want to think about, like, have you ever seen that movie Fast and the Furious, where they push those little NOS buttons and it injects the NOS into the engine, and the cars blaze really fast to go, like, you know, super nitro boost? That's what carbohydrates are to your body. The problem is most people look at carbohydrates and say, I need carbohydrates for energy. I need to depend on them for energy. Well, you can shift your metabolism more towards a sugar-burning state, but that's never going to allow you to use fat for fuel efficiently. So what happens is people eat too many carbohydrates. The average American actually eats 330 grams of carbohydrates a day. And nobody has any business eating that many carbohydrates unless you're training like a professional athlete, when you're training 6 hours a day and you're actually effectively using them, okay? So it's really simple. Carbs are high-intensity fuel and fuel for the brain, which means you need a little bit each day in order to keep your brain running smoothly, but you do not need 330 grams per day. So most people, they eat too many carbs, right? What does it happen when you eat too many carbohydrates and you don't use them? Well, your pancreas secretes a hormone called insulin, right? And insulin is a storage hormone. It's an anabolic and a storage hormone, so it's going to tell your body to increase its body fat percentage, okay? So the first thing I do with most of my clients when I'm trying to optimize their health, optimize their hormones, is to take these carbohydrates and drop them down. And I'm not talking about putting you on the Atkins diet immediately. That can be beneficial for some people. You have to realize that carbohydrate ratios vary from person to person depending on how athletic you are and your genetic heritage. So for most people, my general recommendation is between 50 and 150 grams of carbohydrates per day. Now, that's a good ratio to stick with, but you have to understand is if you're not getting the fat loss results you want, we're probably going to want to drop that carbohydrate ratio down. So we're going to drop it down closer to 50. And if you are getting the fat loss results you want and you're bonking, you're feeling like there's like an energetic bonk in the middle of the day, then we might want to consider titrating that carbohydrate threshold up a little bit. The second part of carbohydrates that's really important is looking at the glycemic index. So we want to make sure that we eat from foods on the lower end of the glycemic index unless it's post-workout. And so that looks like this. Here's the glycemic index. It measures how fast foods get digested in the body, okay? So on this high end, we have things like sugar, rice, potatoes, obviously all processed foods, and wheat. I really like to touch on wheat specifically because wheat, people talk about gluten, and although there's a lot of people with some gluten sensitivities, it can mess with your gut, can mess with your overall performance and health, but wheat is actually higher on the glycemic index than table sugar. So that's one of the fundamental issues, is that if you wake up in the morning and you're having a slice of whole wheat toast, right, and you think you're doing yourself a good job, well, guess what? You're shooting your blood sugar out of control first thing in the morning. So it's better to not do that. So we try to eliminate these foods for the most part. So we try to keep them out of the diet for the most part when I'm trying to optimize someone's fat loss hormones. Now, the lower end of the glycemic index, veggies, right, nuts and seeds, and legumes, okay? And there are some starchy veggies in the middle and fruits I'll talk about in a second. But these three right here tend to work the best for most people. Now I know if you're a paleo diet person, you're looking at this legumes right here going, holy shit, he said legumes, right? It's blasphemy. What I've found with testing and with my private clients is that less than 30%, probably closer to more like 20% of people have a real big issue with legumes. How do I know this? I'm actually one of those people that has an issue with legumes. But many people who I've done a rotational diet on actually don't have too much of an issue with legumes as long as they're properly prepared. So don't worry so much about those as long as your body agrees with them. That's like the key right there, is listening to your body. So we want to eat more of these foods throughout the day to give us energy for a longer period of time. They have more micronutrients, macronutrients, minerals, things like that to make you, to boost your performance, okay? Then we got things in the middle right here. Fruit, and we got tubers, okay? Now, while these are natural, they come from Earth, something we have to realize is that they are sugar, right? So if you eat too much fruit, you eat too many tubers, basically you're just eating a bunch of sugar, right? And so that sugar can have the same glycemic effect, that same insulin effect on your body as a candy bar, right? So people think they're doing themselves a good job eating a banana and everything, but they're not. They're not, especially if their goal is fat loss, because they're going to shoot their blood sugar out of control. And the only time that's useful is usually right before workout or right after your workout. So doing something like a brown spotted banana or a sweet potato within about an hour before or after your workouts, your body's going to use it because, once again, carbohydrates are high intensity fuel. But if you work out in the morning and you slam down 5 bananas at nighttime before you go to bed, well, guess what? It's probably going to be converted into body fat while you sleep, because all unused carbohydrates just get converted into body fat by the liver. So we want to focus on these foods primarily. Now, I was going to go on and talk more about macronutrients, but I carried on a lot for this carbohydrate thing. So I'm going to make a couple more videos talking about protein and fat, and then about calorie cycling, which is another component of the system. So check those out as well, and thank you so much for watching.